With the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, it basically says you have freedom of speech. Yet what happened is that you and there was a couple other people who were arrested for just posting signs on public property. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah, that's taken back. That was September 6th last year. We were deliberately disobeying the directives, which were contrary to the law, of the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. on behalf of the Answer Coalition, who we were organizing with for the September 15th anti-war rally, which was one of the biggest we've had in a long time. We had over 100,000 people in the streets and 5,000 engaging in civil disobedience with a dying at the Capitol. But this was, a week and a half earlier, 12 days earlier, September 9 days earlier, September 6th. We were putting up posters, and we held a press conference to call out the MPD because they were fining the Answer Coalition for posters that they were putting up within the regulations. And so we held a press conference that said, we are going to keep putting up posters. We are doing this within the regulations, and we are going to fight this one out in court. And just to show the defiance, myself and Tina Richards, we went up and put up posters on one of these with wheat paste, water-soluble, biodegradable wheat paste, on an electric utility box in front of the White House at Lafayette Park. And city regulations say you're allowed to do that, 3 per block. And as we were doing it, the police tried to break up the press conference, and then they sent in a SWAT team and a cop, another horse-mounted cop, to disperse the crowd of reporters, and was pushing them out of the way. So it really got ridiculous and out of hand. And of course, we were I think released on our own recognizance the next day. We both did about 24 hours in jail. And then another guy who was there, Ian Thompson, after one of the police officers moved a bucket of wheat paste, he went and picked it up. It was his bucket, and got arrested for assaulting a police officer. This is freaking absurd. But in the day and age that we've come to, anything that interferes with a police officer in the performance of his duties is now categorized as assaulting a police officer. Tina Richards and I were acquitted. He was convicted. And this guy's a lawyer in Los Angeles, and I think he got debarred because of it. But I mean, what we're up against is very real for some of us, and is very manifest for a lot of people that don't have the opportunity to speak out the way that we do. But these are symptoms of the failure of our political culture, that we allow this kind of authoritarianism to run rampant in our society.
And I'd like to briefly add to our listening audience, the people that think it's only happened in the United States, well, I guess you should wake up, because Harper promised transparency in his government, and the only thing he delivered was the exact same. And also, I remember, I am a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces. I served for almost 9 years, 86 to 95, with one UN tour to Iran in 1988. And for writing a fictional novel, which is a political statement, which I'm entitled to say, I was harassed, I was threatened with death, I was hit in a sidewalk, I was threatened with jail, my car was almost ridden off the highway, I was forced to leave Canada for almost 5 years of my life, and I ended up down in the United States of America, and that's why I believe that Canada and the United States should regain their rights under the Constitution, their constitutions, remain free under their own flags, no North American Union, to individual countries. At the same time, I'd also like to say this to all you British monarch supporters, please leave. We don't want you here anymore. We want the Republic of Canada. We want to enter into a partnership with First Nations and non-First Nations. And we want to have sever our ties with the British monarchy. And while the British monarchy is leaving, at the same time, please leave the United States and leave the Federal Reserve in the United States in the hands of the American people only. And with that said, I heard you on the Ron Paul convention when you were saying that you want your country back and everything. And you know what? And also, I also saw a YouTube with you standing there with a sign in McCain's convention. And what I saw a true brave person, and I'd like to thank you for both the speech and standing there. What I'd like to know is that what the Chicken Hawks, what they did they do anything to you for standing up for your rights to freedom of speech?
Well, there's kind of a long story there about how everything went down that evening, but I've been blessed with my circumstance that I can put on a shirt that says Iraq Veterans Against the War and fill it pretty well and command a certain amount of respect that way. I was cuffed at one point, but very politely by a couple of female police officers on the outside who just took my ID and let me go. But I mean, it was just such an easy target to make such fools out of the people that were there cheering for McCain, the real authoritarian types. Because there were Ron Paul people in the room, and a lot more than the RNC would like to admit, but they weren't there cheering blindly when McCain came out. They weren't chanting USA at me and cutting off their own candidate to do it, and to get their attention from a balcony way up in the corner of the room. People, they were such suckers, and it was ridiculous, but it shows you, the kind of the mentality of the people that will support a candidate like McCain. But you know what? I could have just as easily hung up a banner, and if I had had the opportunity, I would have been there protesting Obama too. Then wake up! This is not an anti-war candidate.
And also, it looks like we're getting close to running out of time. We're going to bring our next guest pretty quick, but I was wondering if you could leave any contact information with our listening audience, any email, and also any website that you really would like our listening audience to visit, to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Iraq Veterans Against the War. There are a lot of issues with war resistors that we're supporting, crossing borders, getting some kind of sanctuary in Canada and in other countries, and so there's definitely stuff that the Canadian people can do to get involved in supporting Iraq Veterans Against the War, and just telling people about us and encouraging resistance and getting involved any way you can. We do have a chapter in a couple chapters now in Canada. I'm sorry, I forget where they are, but those are on the site. And if anybody would like to get in contact with me, my email is really easy. It's adam.kokesh, K-O-K-E-S-H, at gmail.com. And I have a blog, but I haven't been keeping up, and that's kokesh.blogspot.com.
And also, I'd like to add, Adam, that I re-released my first novel that I wrote and copywrote back in April 20th of 2001 in the Library of Congress. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm donating 50 cents off of each ebook sold to the war resistors. And the reason why I'm doing that is that I'm giving it back to my brothers and sisters. I may not have much in life, but as much as I can, I will give back to my brothers and sisters. I believe anyone that wore the uniform is basically a gigantic brotherhood and sisterhood, and we have to do our best to protect the ones that are basically being outspoken. We have to do our best to protect the ones that are trying to find safety in a sea of darkness, and that's why we have to stand up right now.
Even Kennedy spoke of the day when the war resistor will have as much of an appreciation by society as the warrior does. And that's really important that we bring about that shift, that we achieve that society.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Adam. We'll get you back on again because you are such a colorful individual and you're truly standing for all people as you're trying to reunite the flame of freedom in the United States. And I hope that exact same flame of freedom heads up here to Canada and will basically tell our political parties here, we don't want the old anymore. We want new. We want to get rid of the Queen off of Canadian soil and all of her henchmen and henchwomen. They're trying to put authoritarianism upon the people. So thank you so much, Adam. And
thanks for having me, bro.
I'd like to remind you this is Co-op Radio 102.7 FM CFRO. You're listening to the Monday Brown Bagger, and we're going to take a brief break right now, and then we'll come back with our next guest. Thank you so much, Adam.